Hello everyone, what is up? Welcome to the channel. My name is Jordan and today we're going to be talking about, are carbs bad for us? This is a debate which seems to come around every couple of months or so. Most recently on Twitter, where I saw somebody put a tweet out saying carbs cause obesity, and it caused a bit of a ruckus in the Twitter sphere. So I've put together this video. I'm going to share some links and try and dispel some of the myths around this topic because, in a word, carbs are really important for us as human beings. Unless we have a medical condition like celiac disease or a condition where digesting carbohydrates is really difficult for the human body. Unless it's a medical condition, carbohydrates are good for us, and I will break down some of the myths and I'll talk us through how they're good for us in the main video. See you in a bit. Okay then, so the first thing I want to try and do is address this association with carbs causing obesity. And I think when we say that term of carbs are bad for me, I'm going to cut out carbs because I want to try and lose weight. I think what people are associating carbs with is this really highly processed, highly sugared foods like chips, pizza, crisps, burger buns. The kind of highly processed stuff which we know is not good for us. Whereas in reality, carbs are really, really essential. So what I'm going to try and do is break down a few different areas why carbs are so important. When we're looking at the good stuff, like whole grain stuff, like good pasta, good bread, rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and loads of vegetables, carbohydrates are essential for our diet. But we're going to look at carbohydrates for performance, for exercise, for activity, and how they help fuel the body. And then I'm going to kind of address how carbohydrates are really important for daily life as well. Okay, so catch me in the next section and I'll talk us through it. Okay, onto carbs and their role on performance, exercise, activity, and all the things like that. They are incredibly important to keep us fueled and make sure we have enough energy to get through these sorts of activities. Now, my background is I've been working in professional sports since 2014. I'm a sports scientist and a strength and conditioning coach by trade. And what I'm certainly always recommending the athletes that I work with is they need to be eating enough and a good quality of carbohydrate sources. And the reason for that is they are going through and burning so many calories per day, being very active, training and playing games. They need to make sure they're replenishing and fueling themselves to get through that level of activity. So when we're talking about carbohydrates, they're bad and they cause obesity, the actual opposite is true when it comes to performance. We need carbs, they are essential to make sure we are fueled properly, okay? And if we think about athletic populations and elite performance levels, if we think about it across the board, why would top sporting institutions across the world employ high-level nutritionists to recommend carbohydrate sources and all good quality carbohydrates and look at the amount of carbohydrates that athletes are eating? Well, if they were bad for us, why would they do that? They wouldn't. And some great examples are out there. Have you watched Tour de France or any kind of endurance-based event? You'll often see, certainly in Tour de France, they'll cross the finish line, they'll go to their team and they'll be given a big vat of pasta to just start eating through to try and replenish all the carbohydrate stores they've used for the event. Okay, so if you think about it that way, if carbs were bad for us, if carbs were something that was the enemy and it caused really kind of bad, horrible things happening to the human body, then the top sporting institutions in the world who employ really highly qualified and highly knowledgeable nutritionists, why would they be recommending to athletes who we need to be at the best of their ability at all points so they can perform on the pitch or on the track or whatever it is, why would they be recommending carbohydrates and making sure that they have enough and eating loads and good quality carbohydrates throughout each day? They wouldn't, because we know that carbohydrates are essential for us. Certainly if we're exercising a lot, if we're active, if we're performing a lot, if we're going to the gym very often, if we're training, if we're doing all these things, we need to have carbohydrates in our diet, okay? So making sure that we get enough carbohydrates is essential to make sure we are fueled, okay? And you will often see many elite athletes, they'll be eating and taking gels and things, half-time breaks in football, for example, because carbohydrate stores we know are essential, okay? So this is the point I'm trying to make here. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. The horrible, processed, really nasty carbohydrates are not good for us. We know that. But good quality carbohydrates, like the pasta, like good wholemeal breads, all that kind of thing, they are really, really essential for us, okay? I'm going to talk about in the next section how we can kind of improve our day-to-day carbohydrate intake and make sure that's important for daily life as well. Okay, so we've looked at carbs and their role on performance, but what about daily life? Are they important for our day-to-day activity? The answer is yes. Do they cause obesity? The answer is no. The whole reason this video came about is because somebody tweeted carbs cause obesity, and it caused arguments and it really kicked off on Twitter about this. That's just simply not true. Obesity is caused by consuming more calories than I burn per day in, day out, week in, week out, and that will lead to weight gain. The opposite is also true, that if I burn more calories than I consume, then I'm going to lose weight. Okay, that is the simple equation, but it can be really confusing when you start to add in food groups and how much of each food group I should be eating, micronutrients, macronutrients. All these kind of terms can be really confusing. So what I've tried to do is I've put some important links in the description below, which have linked to some really good resources that you can use. One of them is the NHS website, which literally breaks down what are carbs. Now, for those of you in the UK, you know what the NHS is. It's our National Health Service. They know what they're talking about. They are experts. They employ thousands and thousands of experts to make sure our bodies run smoothly. And if the NHS is saying carbs are not bad for us, they are good for us, and here is some easy descriptions to follow, I would listen to it if it was me, okay? Also linked a really interesting study looking at kind of global populations, and it was done by Bloomberg, and it used the World Health Organization statistics and data and looking at kind of ranking the healthiest countries in the world. And it looked at all sorts of lifestyle factors: diet, obesity rates, smoking, access to clean water, healthcare, kind of age and death, or things like that. And they looked across the whole country and they ranked the countries in terms of healthiest to least healthy. Now, the top two countries might surprise you. Number one was Spain, and number two was Italy. Two countries where all of a sudden, hopefully, you're starting to think about the national dishes of each country. Paella, Spain, a rice-based dish. And certainly if you think about Italy, you've got pasta, bread, pizza, and loads of carbohydrate foods, which they consume very regularly and as part of every single meal. So if carbohydrates cause obesity, and if carbohydrates were really bad for us, why would the top two countries in the world, according to this data, which again, follow the description if you don't believe me, why would the top two countries have high carbohydrate-based diets? Out of curiosity, if you're wondering, the UK finished 19th on the list and the USA finished 35th. So you can see the differences. Now, the UK and the US have something in common, that they are very high obesity rates because they consume a lot of calories per person in comparison to Spain and Italy. Again, they're consuming high carbohydrate diets, but they consume less calories, therefore their obesity rates, and they are healthier as a nation for it. So if you don't believe me, follow the links in the description. It's a really interesting study, and find more information on that NHS website if you need as well. Okay, to wrap the video up then, do carbohydrates cause obesity? The answer is no. No, they do not. What causes obesity is calories in versus calories out. If I consume more calories than I burn in a day in, day out, I will gain weight. And the opposite is true. If I consume less calories than I burn, day in, day out, I will lose weight. That is what causes obesity and weight gain, okay? But carbohydrates as a food group themselves do not cause obesity. That is something I really need to stress. There are better carbohydrates that you can have. If we look at whole grain pastas, whole grain rice, nice quality, high quality rye breads and things like that, vegetables, potatoes, squash, sweet potato, things like that. They are really good sources of carbohydrate. They are high in fiber, high in other minerals as well, and they are really important for our diet. If I'm having highly processed, sugary food that's technically still carbohydrates, such as sweets, crisps, really cheap, nasty burger buns, highly processed pizza bases, things like that, they are bad versions of carbohydrate. But the truth is, I could still only eat them, but as long as I consumed less calories than I burnt per day, I wouldn't actually gain weight. The only problem is you'd be missing out on a significant amount of health benefits by eating the poorer versions of carbohydrates. So always aim for the best version of carbohydrates, like I've just touched on, the whole grain stuff, the vegetables that include like high amounts of minerals and things like that, okay? But carbohydrates are not the enemy. They are really important. Certainly working with athletes every day, we're recommending that every single meal they consume, the biggest part of that meal are carbohydrates, because we know they are so important for the human body. Okay. If you want to find out more information, follow the links in the description below. You can get in touch with me directly via the website, which is www.theppc.football, or you can just contact me through social media as well, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you enjoyed this video. Any more questions you've got, just get in touch, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.